It's time to get down to business on TK Business Live, brought to you by the members of the Topeka Independent Business Association. Now, let's join Tara Dimmick, owner and publisher of TK Business Magazine, as we take a look into the business world of Topeka, Kansas.
Hi, and welcome to TK Business Live. I'm Tara Dimmick, and it's great to be with you this Sunday. A quick shout out to our sponsor, the Topeka Independent Business Association. You can learn more about them at topekatiba.org. First up, we're going to be talking with Kristina Dietrick of Creative Business Solutions. She was on with us last week. We're going to talk with her again about some more HR topics to help your business. And then Bill Persinger will be joining us. He's with Valeo. And we'll be talking about, we'll get a visit a little bit about mental health. And specifically, I'm going to ask him some questions about, how to work with someone, an employee, someone you supervise, who maybe you're noticing is having some problems, and how to help get them help without having to let them go. It's not always that we need to let them go. It's somewhere in between, right? How do we get them the help they need? So I'm looking forward to getting to chat with him about those issues as well. Kristina Dietrick is joining me again to talk about HR hot topics. Kristina is president of Creative Business Solutions. Welcome.
Hi.
Good to have you here. So what are the human resources hot topics, those HR hot topics that you're hearing about and dealing with right now?
I think something that's been hot here recently is people consulting with me in regards to how do you properly sever the relationship with an employee. Usually, most of the time when someone is coming to me, they're having job performance issues. Either it's been a long time or it's only happened in the interim, but they want to do something about it. And so, as I always are consulting with people, I'm a big believer in duty to warn, opportunity to cure. Okay, that's a big term that I learned from someone here in town, an employment lawyer, and I like that term, is you want to be the employer that gives them the opportunity. So duty to warn, opportunity to cure, do some coaching. But if you coach and you coach and you coach and things are not turning around, it's probably time to sever the relationship. And a lot of people struggle with how to do that and how to do that properly. I'm a big believer in planning. Have some talking points before you go into that particular session. I also believe that at some point in time you need to have a witness. You need to have someone in the room with you. You got to get the right person in the room. That's a key component. That's why some of the small business owners here in town don't have that right person, so they have an outside party, come in and be a part of the conversation. It's a short meeting. It should not be longer than a few minutes. You're basically telling the individual that you've made a business decision, whatever that business decision is. I'm a big believer in telling people why, but there are some people, no matter even if you tell them why,
they don't hear it.
They're not hearing it. And I call that, I said 80% of the population can hear it. And you have done a good job of coaching them, and they know why they're being let go. But there is a portion of the population that I'm afraid are perfect, and no matter what you say, they're going to debate you on it. So sometimes you don't say that much. You just say, we're moving in another direction. It's a business decision. You got to make sure you have your ducks in a row in regards to, property, health insurance, PTO, all of these type of things. So that's another reason to come in prepared, just because they're going to ask these type of questions. And then long story short, there may be some circumstances, it doesn't happen very often, where you need a separation agreement, where you're making a business decision. For example, I was consulting with someone this morning that's going through a layoff situation. I mean, they're laying off. And the business lost a grant, lost some funding. They have to let one person go. Guess what? That's when you probably need to put a separation agreement in front of them. Give them some severance pay because of the circumstances, and have them sign off on that agreement stating that, if they receive this money, they will not, come back to sue you, for any reason. That's pretty normal in a layoff situation. But a lot of it is needing the support. People need the support. They know what they need to do, and they may need to get a little bit of guidance on what to say. That's probably the key. I'm one of these less is best. It's better to have a few things to say than too much to say. And I will say, if there has been bad terminations, they're usually in two areas. Number one, they terminate the person when they are upset. They are passionate about it. Maybe bad words are flying back and forth. It's just a knee-jerk reaction. That's not a good time to do that. And then when I also say they say too much, they make it very personal. That's the best way to put it. I mean, it's one thing that they're not performing their job, but it's another thing when you are bringing up personal characteristics about them that, you don't like. And I'm not saying that they exist or don't exist, but there's a time and a place. And when you're severing the relationship, probably not a good time.
Right. So what advice do you have for that business owner? And maybe it would be good for employers or employees to understand too, like business owners will hold on to employees for as long, many, not all. Some are really good about being able to say, okay, this isn't working. It's not working for either one of us. This is the time to go. But a lot will just hold on and hold out. And how do you get, I guess as a business owner, how do you get to the point where you feel like, I'm making the right decision and this is hurting our culture as a company?
There is no easy answer in regards to that. I think the best time to make that decision is when it starts affecting other people beyond yourself. And I always tell business owners, if you think this is just, you're the only one feeling this pain, there are probably others feeling this pain, like employees, like customers or clients. You need to start doing some due diligence and seeing if it's affected beyond yourself.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's a huge issue. The reason I'm kind of giggling, Tara, is one of my clients wanted me to do a presentation, and they gave me the title of the presentation, and the title was, "Why is this person still working here?"
Oh.
And the reason I laugh about that is exactly what you just said. I always am counseling clients to hire slow, fire fast. But basically what a lot of clients do, or business owners or employers do, is just the opposite. Right. They hire fast and they take forever to sever that relationship. So you have to just have a different mindset. And you really have to have the mindset, what can I coach, what can I not coach? And, you want to give people an opportunity to turn it around, but if they don't, it is a business decision. Time is money, money is time. And, there's nothing worse than a bad job fit for both parties. It's better for both parties to move on and try to, find something else. But you're right. Most employers are going above and beyond to try to make this work before they make that decision. Very rarely do I see employers make a knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
It's usually the opposite.
So, Kristina, if somebody is wanting help in this area, which most people are. This is whether it's they really want to provide the opportunity and do a better job of doing those performance reviews. And how do you give them guidance? How do they connect with you to get some help on those areas?
Well, we're always available, for a conversation. We can be reached at 233-7860. And then our website is www.cbsks.com. Email me. It all depends on the situation. So I want people to know we don't have a cookie cutter type of way of doing things. You've got a scenario, you've got a situation, and we'll customize the particular solution for you.
Excellent. Kristina, thank you so much for joining me.
No problem. Thank you.
That was Kristina Dietrick with Creative Business Solutions.
My name is Ken Daniel, and the name of my company is Midway Wholesale.
What is TIBA? TIBA is advice and support. TIBA is information and education. TIBA is a voice for small business.
It's amazing the changes that we've gotten made in state law to the point where we had a list at one time and it's just about finished.
The Topeka Independent Business Association is strong because of its members. Become a member today by visiting topekatiba.org.
I have Bill. I almost said Billy.
That's okay. Billy's fine. Makes me feel younger.
Billy's the actual name. He just shared that with me off air, and then I did it anyway. But Bill Persinger, Jr. is with me. He's the CEO over at Valeo. Bill, welcome.
Thank you, Tara. It's a pleasure to be up here on the Hill.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about all the services that, maybe not all of them, because there's a lot.
There are a lot. We have something like 30 programs at Valeo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So tell me, some of those and some of what your focuses are.
How about if I start with this? And if the people listening have a takeaway from what they hear today, it would be that Valeo is a place that helps save lives. We prevent suicides every day. And we're a place that helps people find a place to live if they're mentally ill. We work with a lot of partners on that, like the Rescue Mission and others. And we're a place that helps people find jobs so that they can become independent, or at least more independent than perhaps they have been. And something that hits pretty close to me is we help reunite families.
Wow.
I have mental illness in my family, and I can tell you, because of the treatments they received right here in Kansas, our family is closer. And so what does mental health do? We could sit here for 3 or 4 hours and talk about 30 different programs, including our 24-hour walk-in crisis center. I mean, literally any hour of the day a person can walk in at 400 Southwest Oakley and get help from a licensed person right now. And that's pretty awesome. But what does mental health do? We help keep people out of psychiatric hospitals who don't need to be there any longer. We help people restore their dignity. We help people not drive drunk. We help people recover from substance abuse so that they can be a father or a mother or a son or a daughter again. We help people retain their jobs. We were chatting earlier about the cost to employers in the state of Kansas. Just in Kansas, just for a year, is just over $1 billion of lost revenue due to behavioral health problems, mental illness, substance abuse, family problems. And if we could fix half of that, that's a boost for the employer. It's a retention of a job for a valuable employee. It's the unification or the reunification of a family. That's really what mental health does. We do counseling and we do crisis intervention. A lot of our staff work on the street every day alongside the police, or going to someone's house to visit them, and somebody recovering from mental illness who needs support in their home. And we have a program called Supported Employment that helps people find jobs, people who have a serious mental illness like schizophrenia or bipolar disease. And sometimes the effects of a mental illness can really affect one's work and one's capacity to work, and restoring that person and being a part of their recovery. And a lot of people let us be a part of their recovery, and what a gift to us, actually. Part of their recovery is going back to work and restoring that part of their life.
So, one of the things that as you talk about that is, I guess I look as a business owner, as a supervisor. There's all these situations where you may see someone, because it's there. And it may be mental health, or maybe a substance abuse problem.
Yep.
It may be both.
Could be both. We see that quite a lot, actually. Yeah.
So how do you keep it from having to be fired? How do you take a good person who maybe is going through a bad time?
So I think the first thing that we want people to understand, and by the way, there's a great course that we offer called Mental Health First Aid. It's free to cheap, I'll put it that way, kind of depending on the situation, but it's an 8-hour training course that educators, the clergy, employers, family members, public policy leaders, officials can go through and learn about mental health, signs and symptoms and problems and substance abuse, and how to recognize that, how to respond as a layman. And so, but I think the first part of the answer is understand what mental illness is. And it can be different for every person. And of course, there are degrees of mental illness. A lot of us have anxiety, or maybe we're depressed for a while. We have problems of living. Work is stressful sometimes, or maybe our kids are going through something we don't quite understand, or, marriages hit a hard spot from time to time. And so we all have, not all of us, but, a lot of people experience mental health problems. There are a lot of ways to deal with that: counseling, some medication for a short term. Some people develop their spiritual side. Others get a hobby. I mean, they exercise. A lot of things you can do to improve your mental health. And then, there's kind of the other end of the spectrum that I would probably call mental illness, where a person has a disease. They didn't choose it. They didn't create it. And it can grip their life and tear it apart without, the support of a family, without treatment. And so some of the signs and symptoms of depression on any level would be changes in a person's motivation, changes in their sleep habits, changes in their diet, changes in their energy level, an inability to concentrate, irritability, mood swings. And so those kind of behaviors can show up even in more mild to moderate kind of, I don't even want to say every day, but what you might call a common depression. But take those symptoms and magnify them, and then you have a depression that some people refer to as darkness and a blackness that they just can't find their way out of, and they want to, and they need help doing that. So think about a whole range of depression. Anxiety, from test anxiety if you're a college kid, clear on up to anxiety so severe that you can't leave your house. You literally, physically can't leave your house because of the fear. Have you been frozen with fear before? I have been a couple of times. Imagine what that's like every hour. So sometimes you just can't move because of the fear. And in fact, that word makes me think that fear is one of the kind of basic elements of mental illness, and people who have schizophrenia, a form of mental illness, sometimes fear of others is one of the big challenges that they face. And so, with substance abuse, you can see some of the same kind of changes in behavior and mood, irritability, that kind of thing. Poor work performance, attendance problems, lots of sick days. And for sure, by the time somebody gets a DUI or maybe 2 or 3 DUIs, which is serious business, you're really looking at a person who probably has a problem with substance abuse and needs some form of treatment. Oftentimes that starts with a family intervention, pressure from family, pressure from employers, and that's part of helping that individual recover. So you ask the question, as an employer, what do I do? Mm-hmm. Some kind of confrontation, which is different for every person. Sometimes you just need to be in somebody's face. Other times you bring people along more gently. But as an employer, letting them know that they have value and that their recovery is important to you, and that there may be consequences if they don't recover or start to recover. That's when the employer can work with the individual and make a referral. So I think it takes knowledge, and it takes some bravery. It takes some risk-taking on the part of family and loved ones and employers to say to people, I think you have a mental health problem. I think you have a substance abuse problem. And that's really where it starts. The second thing is following through. Because if you simply confront and then back off, and you don't follow through with that individual, then you've done them a disservice. And then once they're in a recovery stage, ask how you can help. So identifying the problem, confronting it, following through, and then once they're on the path to recovery, finding ways to reward them for that and support them in that. It's the kind of a 4-step answer that I would give.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
Thank you.
It seems like a very viable option, and also kind of validates the confrontation. I mean,
it does. It does.
It seems to me, and I'd be curious what the answer is, but people need the confrontation to make the change in many cases. Sometimes,
and then sometimes it happens more easily than that. Someone could come down and sit there and begin to share their problems with you, or they might say things that are kind of indirect, and if you're listening carefully, you'll hear a problem or a theme or a pattern to their behavior. So sometimes people reach out for help. Mm-hmm. I think the imperative then, as an employer, a neighbor, a family member, is to hear what they're saying. So we don't all use the same language for mental illness or mental health or substance abuse problems. We all describe it differently. We all see it differently. Sometimes we see it. We don't know what we're seeing. We may say, look, I don't know anything about mental illness. I don't even know what that means. But I'll guarantee if a person thinks hard enough, they'll remember a relative whose behavior was different than everybody else's. Sometimes I, say, well, maybe it's that relative that lived with their parents till they were in their middle years and would never come downstairs for when all the rest of the family was there for Thanksgiving, or, I pick on uncles a lot, but no particular reason. But the uncle that drank too much, or your cousin that was always in trouble at school. I mean, you think about it. Well, now wait a minute. Maybe we have had problems in our family. I just didn't stop to think about it. I guarantee you, if you're in law enforcement, you can talk about mental illness. You know what that is. You may not have a degree in psychology, but you work in the mental health field every day. If you teach, you know what childhood emotional problems look like. If you're a nurse or a physician or a pastor, you know what mental illness looks like, and you have a language for that. So understanding your language for mental health, how you think about it, how you talk about it, will help you support people when they come to you with a problem. People generally will talk about their problems to somebody, and being a good listener and knowing what you hear, it doesn't require a degree or a license. It just requires being tuned in and getting some information. So, if your uncle calls up and says, hey, I just got diagnosed with schizophrenia, what do we do with that? I'll bet if your uncle called up and said, look, I just got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, we'd be Googling, we'd be searching, we'd be reading to find out what are the signs and symptoms and what are the treatments. And, but do we do that with mental health problems? Do we read, learn, understand? I guarantee you could plug in the word mental illness symptoms right now in your search bar and come up with thousands and thousands of references that anybody could read and understand.
Well, I think another thing that has changed, and I think about it just in my own family, is that it's more accepting to talk about mental illness, and maybe not directly. Maybe it's always the I have a friend conversation.
Sure. Every family has their thing, how they talk about things.
Right. But it does seem that taking medication, understanding that there's a problem, it's being more and more accepted. I know it is in my family at this point.
That's true.
But when I was growing up, there was always secrets. So
it was.
So bringing them out of the closet seemed like it's an important.
It really,
piece of it
and
too.
that does so much to combat stigma. And I'll tell you one thing that's so cool about Valeo is that we have an art gallery, and for people who are recovering from mental illness and substance abuse, and they can display their works. You can see it the first Friday of any month down in Noto at the Yeldarb Gallery. I'll put in a little selfish plug for our artists down there. And in fact, next year, early in the year, January, February, we're going to move from the upstairs gallery to the downstairs and continue that partnership with the private artists who display their works every day. And so, one way we found out people can understand mental illness is through art and music. And so, frankly, I mean, in a good way, we're going to exploit that. So if the everyday encounter that we have with people, it's how do you talk about mental illness? Well, I think most of us, can understand art and how people express themselves through art, whether mentally ill or recovering or not, or we think art is a good medium for people to understand what people go through when they're mentally ill. You should hear some of the stories of our recovering artists. It's amazing what they've gone through, and it will bring you to tears. So we want to do more of that.
Yeah, well, so Noto. Go to Noto
first Go to Noto first Friday. Yeah, and now the Yeldarb Gallery has some regular hours, and we're going to continue having hours, and we'll have volunteers work there, and it'll be open to the public. And, we think about it for a second. We want the art of our recovering people to be on display, but we also want artists who are, who not suffering from a mental illness or addiction. And we just want those to blend together and just be part of the natural community. And so, that's what we try to do. We help people who are mentally ill find a job or a house or reunite with their family or help them save their life or keep them out of a hospital. We just help them be a part of everyday regular society. And so we have stories of people who've gone from destitute homelessness and a severe mental illness to back to work, back to expressing themselves, back to being a mother, father, son, husband, wife. So it's just we just think art's going to be a great way to talk about that. So we're pretty excited, pretty pumped about that. So, but I think the other takeaway is that everybody has a language for mental health. And if you can understand how you think about mental illness and how you relate to it, because I almost guarantee you, somewhere in the family, a friend, a neighbor, a coworker, you'll find signs of mental illness and substance abuse. And from the mild to the serious, and how you think about that, how you understand it, will help you hear those people when they do reach out. And they don't always reach out in a way that says, hey, could you help me? Sometimes people have more subtle messages that you have to be attuned to.
So if somebody does that, give me more information about how we connect with Valeo.
So you can call the phone number any hour of the day and get help. It's best if people make their own appointment, but we have had others call and make an appointment. A person can just walk in during hours at 330 Southwest Oakley. It's the northwest corner of what used to be the state hospital grounds, now right near Hummer Park. And then after hours, they can walk in at 400 South Oakley, which is the facility just south and east of the main office there, and ask for an intake. Let people know that they're in crisis, they need help right away, and we'll get right on it.
That's great. That's great.
We have what we call same-day access. So if you get there I think it's roughly between 8 and 11 in the morning, you'll be seen that day, or you can make an appointment and come back in the next couple of days. For people who work and can't just come on down, or maybe they have children to take care of, or other appointments, they can call and make their own individual appointment. We'll schedule them out 2 or 3 days. So
great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you for. We're grateful to have Valeo here and to help our community.
Well, thank you, Tara. We couldn't get the word out without our media around here. They've been awesome to us for many, many years. And thank you so much.
Thanks so much for joining me on TK Business Live. And thanks to my guest, Bill Persinger with Valeo, and Kristina Dietrick with Creative Business Solutions, as well as a quick thank you to the Topeka Independent Business Association. They're the sponsor of TK Business Live, and we couldn't make it happen without them. So if you'd like to learn more about TIBA, go check them out at topekatiba.org or topekatiba.org. Thanks so much again for joining us, and have a great week.
Thanks for joining Tara and her guests on TK Business Live. Join us again next Sunday at 11:30 to hear more from our community business leaders, entrepreneurs, and people making a difference in the landscape of how business is progressively moving forward in Topeka. TK Business Live is brought to you by the members of the Topeka Independent Business Association.